Welcome to the Real Deals Real Estate Podcast, where you'll learn about buying and selling homes and how to invest in real estate. Now, here's your host, Donald Torrance of JAVE Real Estate.
So let's jump right into it. Like I said, today's show is about creative real estate investing. Uh, the what's the components with the real estate and creative real estate investing is investing in real estate outside the norm. Uh, Basically, it's three components that's involved in creative real estate. Those three components consist of buying, selling, and financing. Um, those components can also be described as uh, untraditional purchases, untraditional sales, untraditional financing. The untraditional buying is going to be selling outside of using a realtor, putting your property on the market, selling it the traditional way that someone would actually contact a realtor, put their property on the market, and sell a property. The same thing with selling their property. They would actually contact a realtor to actually list their property and put that property on the market. Financing, they will go to a traditional bank or a lending institution and show their financials, their bank statements, credit reports, all the things that they would need to qualify for a mortgage. With untraditional financing that's creative, it's outside of that. It's going to be anything but using a bank. So let's cover some of the components that's in creative real estate. You're gonna have your wholesaling, and I'm going to go back and go over these a little bit more in depth. You're gonna have your wholesaling. You're gonna have your owner financing or route mortgage. Uh, Most people don't hear the word route mortgage, but they hear owner finance. You're gonna have your lease options. You're gonna have uh, you're going to have your rehabs, which your rehab structure is going to be different. So you can go to a realtor and buy a property off the what's called the MLS, the multi-listing servicing. Uh, you can go there and buy a property and then you can rehab it. But what I'm going to be telling you about is some untraditional ways of acquiring that property to rehab it. The flips. There's going to be different ways that I'm going to be talking about flipping a property. Pre-foreclosure, we're going to talk about some ways that you can invest in pre-foreclosure, subject to tax liens, financing with your hard money and private lending, and your note buying. So we're going to start with the wholesaling. Wholesaling is basically finding a property at a discounted rate anywhere from 40 to 60% of the fair market value. So let's say you find a property that's worth $100,000. You you can buy that property for 40 to 60 cents on a dollar. So let's just say you can buy it for 50 cents on a dollar. So you would pay $50,000 for the property. You would get it under contract for the $50,000, and then you would sell it to another investor who's actually going to do the rehab to that property, and you would sell that property to them for the $60,000, making yourself $10,000 in that transaction. That's creative real estate. Controlling creative real estate is basically controlling a piece of property and until you sell it without you actually getting any funding, putting your name on it, on a property without ever actually owning it. So that's wholesaling. You got owner financing. Owner financing is where the owner agrees to take, say the owner has a property that's paid off, and they agrees to take a mortgage for you instead of you going to the bank. They might charge you a little bit more on the interest rate. So they would actually take that property, finance it for you, say at a 10-year term with a balloon payment in the 10 years. So they might charge you 8% interest or 10% interest, whatever that interest rate that that owner might decide to charge you. It gives you a chance to get into the property with less money as opposed to going to a bank. It allows you to control the property for you can actually sell it to someone else or fix it up. Whatever you might want to do with the property, you have that ability to do so. Now, let's say that same owner has a mortgage on their existing property and they're willing to do the owner finance. A wrap mortgage is basically putting a mortgage on top of the mortgage that they have. So let's say they have a mortgage. Use $100,000 property. They have a mortgage on that property, say for $80,000. They agree to sell you the property for $90,000 at 10% interest. Their original mortgage is, let's say, 5% interest. So they are making that 5% difference in the mortgage. Plus, they're charging you 10% of the $90,000 as opposed to them paying 5% on the $80,000. So they would actually, you would actually make your payments to them. The title get transferred in your name, and you are actually the owner of the property. Instead of you getting a mortgage from the bank, the owner is actually now the owner, the bank for you. So it was a little less strenuous than going to a traditional bank to actually borrow money to purchase a property. So that's your owner finance and your wrap mortgage. Basically, the wrap is they take and create a new mortgage, and it wraps around the mortgage that the actual owner has on the property. The next one is the lease option. Lease options, most people relate lease option to rent to own. It's one and the same. Lease options, you get yourself out of the condition, out of the being a landlord, more to say. And if you notice, I didn't put rental properties in this list because rental properties is your traditional investing. That's what most people know, is to go buy a piece of property and rent it out and cash flow it for the rent every month. So we're not going to talk about rentals as far as the creative real estate investing part of it, because that's, to me, that's not being creative. But you take a lease option and you put a lease agreement together, because there's two components of a lease option. There's the rental agreement that the tenant has, that saying that they're responsible for the property. You can put words in there that says that they're responsible up to $1,000 of repairs. Anything above $1,000, you being the owner or the person that controlling the property, have to pay anything above $1,000. So let's say a furnace goes out and it's $1,500 for them to actually get the furnace fixed. That lease option buyer would pay that first $1,000, and then you, as the person that leased the property to them, would pay the additional $500. So it gives them an opportunity to own a property without putting a lot of money in. It's like test driving a car or test driving a used rent a center. Prime example that I can use. Rent a center has furniture or TVs or whatever they have that you can actually rent to own. So you are rented for a certain period of time, and then you can actually purchase it at the end of your uh, rental agreement or your lease agreement with Rent a Center, however they set it up with you. And it's the same thing if it was a car. Most people hear of lease cars, leasing a car. So leasing a house is pretty much the same thing. At the end of your lease term, you have the ability to buy it, or you have the ability to actually get funding and pay off the actual option that you have to purchase it. Now your rehabs are a little different than what uh, to acquire the property to rehab. And that's why I put rehabs in here. So your rehabs are going to be a little different than your traditional rehabs. Most people would actually go on the MLS, find a property, fix it up, and then put it back on the MLS. Where what I mean when I'm talking rehabs on how to acquire the property is you take a homeowner that has a property that needs to be rehabbed. Instead of you cashing them out, paying them off for the property, you take them in as a partner. So taking them as a partner, what you do is you rehab the property, you sell the property. Once you or you refinance it, sell it or refinance it, whichever one you decide to do with the property. Then you turn around and pay the homeowner off at that particular time. So you took them in as a partner. Let's take that same $100,000 house. You took them in as a partner. They wanted 20, let's say $30,000 for the property. The property needed another 30,000 in renovation. So you got $60,000 that you know you have to cash out. So whether you went to an investor to borrow the $30,000 to actually do the renovation, then once you finish the renovation, you get the property sold, or you refinance the property, whichever one you decide, and then you pay the actual homeowner off of the property. That homeowner is paid off. You make the profit, whatever that profit may be. So if you sold the property for $90,000, or let's say you sold it for the $100,000, you minus your closing costs, and you may make a profit of $30,000 after all your fees are paid. So, or if you refinance and you pull out 80% of the appraised value, so you pull out $80,000 and you pay off the homeowner that way, and you pay off the money that you borrowed to actually do the renovation. So you still make some money, and you can still hold the property and then rent it as cash flow. So those are your rehab. When I talk about rehabs, as far as gathering them uh, creatively in order for you to rehab, flipping properties is going to fall up under your wholesaling. It's going to fall under your owner finance, your lease options. Those are going to be your flips. You're going to come up with a creative way to sell a property that normally wouldn't sell. So let's say you got a property in a distressed area and you had it listed on the MLS, it didn't sell. uh, you have to convert to one of the other strategies that we spoke of earlier to actually sell this property. You can sell it on a lease option. You can sell it on a finance. So those ways are you. It might be where you can actually sell it off at a wholesale price to a landlord that may want the property. So you have to be creative when it comes to flipping property, and don't just settle with the traditional way of putting it on the market and trying to sell it. Your pre foreclosures is the next item that we're going to talk about. Pre foreclosure is when a person is facing foreclosure but they have not went through the foreclosure proceedings. So what you would actually do on a pre foreclosure is you would actually take that property, bring the property current. So let's say they owe 3 months in back payments. Let's say the payments are $1,000. So that's $3,000 that you got to bring current, plus late fees and penalties, whatever the bank may say those fees are. Let's just say it's $4,500, just using numbers. You'll take that pre foreclosed property. The homeowner is done. They just don't want anything to do with it. They just want the foreclosure to stop. They want the phone calls to stop. They want to try to save their credit. They want to do something to get themselves out of the situation. So let's say you take that property and you have a prospective buyer for that property. You would need them to actually bring the back payments current, and then they would actually you can actually do a wrapping the mortgage that the current owners have, or you can lease option it to them to actually get them to actually purchase it at a later date. So those are the things that you can actually do with your pre-foreclosures. The next item that we have is subject tos. Subject to basically says what it means. It's almost self-explanatory. It's subject to the existing mortgage. So let's say that you have a homeowner that has a property that has a mortgage on it for $100,000. That $100,000 mortgage is at the value of the property. So there's no room for them to actually sell the property, and they want to get rid of the property, whether it's moving to another state or they want to just relocate, they bought another house, whatever the case may be, they just want out of that particular house. You will actually take ownership of that property subject to the existing mortgage. So you will actually start making the mortgage payments on that $100,000 mortgage that they actually own at that particular time until it's actually paid off or you sell it. The market goes up in value, you can actually sell it then. When the market goes up in value, you you get to reap the benefit of the appreciation of the property later on down the line. The next one that I'm going to touch on is tax liens. Most people wait till the property goes to a tax sale and then they buy the taxes at that tax sale, or they buy over the counter where the taxes have went to sale already. The city, the township has taken that property back through the tax not being sold. So a lot of times they will sell those properties after the tax sale. They will sell the taxes over the counter. It's called an over the counter sale. When I say invest in tax liens, you're looking up the delinquent taxes. You're going to go to the homeowners and see if you can actually buy the property, knowing that you need to bring the taxes current. Those are a little bit more involved because you're dealing with the homeowners. You understanding that they either want to keep the property or either they're looking to actually sell the property so they won't lose it due to the tax sale. So that's your tax lien investment. The financing side, there's three sections in three. I'm sorry, there's three financial departments when I would say when it comes to finance. You got your traditional financing where you would go to a bank to get finance. You would go to a mortgage broker to actually get finance. Those are your traditional ways of getting finance. When investors talk about financing properties, they're either talking about hard money loans or private money loans. Hard money loans, a lot of people will say hard money and private money is the same, but they are not. They're uh, two separate entities, and most people say they're the same because of the interest rate that people charge on private money. But private money still is not as expensive as hard money. So the two are different, I would say. This is my opinion. A lot of people won't agree with me, but this is my opinion. Because if you go get a hard money loan on a property, uh, both of them they don't check your credit. They'll look at your credit, but they don't check your credit. Your credit is not the determining factor for them actually loaning you the money on the property. The property has to meet certain criteria for them to actually fund on the property. They won't loan more than 65 or 70%. You might get some that will go up to 75%. But traditionally, normally they will stay between 65 and 70 when they loan on the property. In case you don't meet uh, your obligations with the property, they can actually take the property back and still have the ability to sell the property. Both of them actually set the repair costs in escrow. So all of those are the same, but what's different is hard money, they charge you points up front. So you may pay 3 points, you may pay 4 points, you may pay anything along in a point, uh, what they might say points. Points can be 1% of the value that that they're loaning you, or of the appraised value, whatever they decide they want to use. Because I've seen some hard money lenders say we're charging 1% of the value of the property, or they're charging 1% of the loan amount. So it just depends on what they decide to charge, and then they may charge you some points on the back when they go to sell. When you go to sell the property, so they might charge you three up front and three on the back. They may ask you to pay all these additional fees. You're going to have a lot of fees that's involved when you're dealing with hard money. So the ideal lending, or the ideal borrowing part of investing in real estate, to me, this is my opinion, and I like private money better. Private money is an individual that you may know that have an IRA, or a stock, or something that they can actually pull their money from, because they only gaining 1 to 2% interest on it. They're looking for a better return on their money, so you can offer them 6, 7, 15% interest on, depending on the deal. Every deal may not allow you to give them 15%. It may only allow you to pay 8%. So you will take that investor, or that person and will set them up as if you would, a bank would actually set you up with an actual loan. So I like private money better. Private money is the choice. If you're investing in real estate, find as many private money lenders that you can actually find. Try to educate them on what you're doing, so you can actually be able to get access to money. The more uh, the more access you have to money, the more deals you can do, and the more profitable you're going to be. So I advise everybody to go out and start trying to find private money. The next one that I want to talk about is notes. Uh, you may hear a mortgage note, or somebody took back a second note when they sold a property. They took they took that they might needed to take back the difference in a 10% note, because the buyer did not have enough money to actually close on the property when they went to buy it. So they needed a second mortgage for the owner to hold their note for 10%. So that's when you create notes. Notes are sold at the time that most properties are closed. So at the time of your closing, I'm quite sure somebody has that bought a property has experienced this. You buy a property, and at the time of closing, that note is sold to a secondary party, whether it's another bank or it's a private company, whatever it may be. Those are notes. You have individual that's actually looking for notes to actually buy. So if you're selling a property, and this is another way to flip a property too, and it's really great. Uh, you have to make sure your buyer that you create a note for meets certain criteria in order for you to actually create the note for them, because you won't be able to sell it on the secondary market. So, and then I would also tell you to make that note balloon in 2 years, where they either have to refinance it, or they are looking for to extend the note, or the penalties that would actually accompany the note. So I would say 2 to 5 years, make that note balloon, uh, so your investors would actually look at the note more serious, and make sure that your buyer has pretty decent credit, decent job, been on a job for a while. The same things that you would actually look for if you was going to a bank to actually get a loan. You want to make sure that that note that you created is actually a good piece of paper for you to actually sell. And do keep in mind that they will be buying that note at a discount. So you need to make sure that you create a note that you're actually still going to be able to make money off the property if you sell a note. So just keep that in mind. But note buying is basically you can buy notes from banks. They have delinquent notes that they're selling on the secondary market. You can actually buy those notes. You can actually buy notes from mortgage companies that is performing, meaning that they're paying on time every month. So you can buy notes that way as well. Notes are it's I call it soft investing because you're receiving a check every month from not doing anything, from just receiving buying a piece of paper, and you're actually receiving a payment every month. So that's my take on the notes as far as notes goes. Now I wanted to explain traditional real estate investing and creative real estate investing. I want to make sure that you guys know the difference between the two, because sometimes people get them mixed up and they think they bought a property off the MLS, they fixed it up and they sold it. That was creative investing, but it's really not. Uh, uh, your your traditional investing is buying a property off the MLS. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, there's a realtor involved. The realtor may set you up on an email for you to actually receive properties via email for you to actually take a look at. So once you find a property that you like, you can actually contact your realtor. That realtor would actually take you out on their either, sometimes it's a little hard for them to, because sometimes some realtors do have regular jobs. So if you want to go see a property in the morning, then you have to try to schedule with the realtor. The realtor have to schedule. If it's listed with another realtor, they have to see if they can get the scheduling together for them to actually show that property. So buying off the MLS can be a little nerve wracking to me. So I really don't look at many properties on the MLS unless a realtor that I know sends me a property. They require a large earnest money deposit. It can be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. I've seen earnest money checks as big as $10,000. It depends on the property. A lot of times when you're putting offers in on the MLS, a lot of realtors, they're looking at their commission because they're a commission based employee, self-employed. So uh, a lot of times you will hear them say that there's multiple offers. So you're in a bidding war with somebody that you don't actually know if they're actually a person that's actually bidding on a property. I don't like it when a realtor tell you that come with your highest and best offer, meaning go up higher than what you originally offered because someone else has made an offer on it. And people get emotional when it comes to real estate and they wind up forgetting that there's still an investment piece of property. It's not the last one that's out here. So don't ever get emotional and when it comes to investing in real estate. That causes you to overpay when you get emotional and when it comes to real estate. The difference of buying with realtor and buying creatively, you will see a total difference in the way that they are structured. The deals are structured. When you actually buying from the MLS and dealing with a realtor, say you got $100,000 property, you need to get a bank loan. They need to check your credit report. You need to have a certain credit score, middle credit score between the three bureaus. They want to see you verify your employment. You need to be on your job for 2 years. You need to have a certain income coming in. You need your tax returns for the last 2 years. If you have anything on your credit report that they don't like, you got to write a letter explaining why this is on your credit report. And for the most part, the realtor is the one who's controlling the deal. The realtor is controlling the deal because the realtor is the person going back and forth talking to either the realtor, another realtor, or they talking to the actual homeowner. You're not in the middle of that conversation. even though you can request it. But 9 times out of 10, they're gonna tell you that the owner don't want to sit down and talk to you. So the realtor is actually controlling that deal. So I want to be in control of my deals. I want to be the one who's actually doing all of the negotiating for my deals, because the realtor may not be able to go negotiate as well as I am going to be able to. The realtors have read a book and they don't understand. 90% of them don't understand what an investor is looking for. So this is why I say I want to be in control. So the key to creative real estate investing is you got to market. The when you market, you'll get much better deals. The deals that you will find that most investors don't know about them. Uh, there's no agent, no real estate agent involved in the transaction, so you can actually talk to the homeowners yourself. The homeowners are either contacting you or you are contacting the homeowners. These are great deals for some of the options that I told you above: the wholesaling, the lease option, the owner financing. You can be creative like that because there's no realtor to say, no, you can't do that. That's unethical. This is something that you're not used to doing. They're not used to seeing happen. So, and they're not making a commission on it. So they don't want you to do it. They want you to go through them and let them work out the deal for you so they can actually make their commission. So this is a great way to actually uh, get into investing and have great way to invest without having to deal with all the headaches of wondering what the owner is saying, uh, things not getting misconstrued because you didn't actually talk to the owners and the realtor might have came back and gave you the information wrong. So it just makes it so much easier when you're dealing directly with the homeowner. You can actually put little to no money down. I've done deals where I've put $10 down, in some cases $100, in most cases nothing, not a dime. Uh, I prefer to not put money down in case the deal doesn't go through. If I got to put something down, I'm gonna try to put $10 down. The reason I'm doing a small down payment because I want to make sure that they know that this is a binding contract if I feel that it's going to be a seller that I'm gonna have problems with. Sometimes sellers can be a little uh, uneased because they used to the traditional way of investing, so they want something down. So that something can be $10 because most of the time my offer is a cash offer. When I'm buying from an investor, I'm sorry, from an owner where the property needs some work most of the time. So it just depends. Can you actually get properties without putting money down? Absolutely. There's no banks involved. The only bank that you may be involved with if you have to go to a private lender or a hard money lender, and the guidelines are totally different than what they would be if you would actually went to a traditional bank or a broker to actually borrow the money from to actually do the transaction. And if it's a distressed property, you can't go to a bank or a broker anyway because they don't want to fund on distressed properties. So you have to use, or you have to have in uh, your database of people who you can pull out to say, hey, look, this is the deal that I have. I want to invest in this deal. I want you to invest. And some cases you can bring them in as a partner and partner up with them and split the profit off the deals with them. So there's many ways you can actually make a deal happen, and you just gotta push forward and keep going to make that deal transaction happen for you. Deals are done at the real value. When I say deals are done at the real value, some homeowners are unrealistic with their prices. The realtor will tell them that they're going to list their property for $110,000, but the house is only worth $10,000. They're telling them to list it for $110,000 because somebody's going to lowball them anyway and try to buy the property for $95,000. In some cases, the property is a bad idea. The property doesn't work. I talked about this in the last podcast. The deals don't work that way because everybody else, just like the realtor, know that property is overpriced. This is the day of the internet. The realtor is not the only person that don't know that does know that property is overpriced. There are investors out here looking at it. They know it's overpriced, and there's homeowners out here that's looking at it, and they know it's overpriced. Because they know there's things like realtors.com that would actually give you values, not Zillow. Zillow does not give you a value. A lot of people look at Zillow and say, "Oh, my house is worth this amount." No, your house is not worth that amount. It's a zestimate. Please understand, a zestimate is what they are calling a guesstimate. It's not the true value of your property, so you cannot go by that. So if those of you all who are looking at Zillow and thinking that's the value of your property, stop. Either contact a realtor, get a relationship with a realtor, and find out what the true value of your property is. You can also look at realtors.com and look for what's sold in the area. You want to find a house with the same square footage. You want to find a house with the same bedroom, same bath, same setup as your house when it comes to you pulling the value of your house. So anything outside of that, I will contact a realtor to actually help figure out the value of your property, and you let them know you want to know apples for apples, oranges for oranges, nothing different. The only thing about creative real estate, you do need to look at a lot of properties in order for you to actually come up with a good deal. Uh, I make a lot of calls on properties every day. I send out a lot of marketing for looking for properties every day. I do a lot of uh, to bring in what I call leads for properties. So uh, you have to be marketing to actually get the properties that you want in order for you to be successful. Um, the the key to it is being persistent, to stay on top of it, to keep at it, keep going, and you will find out that the market for you investing in real estate would actually come forward, and you would actually be successful. So I just want to thank you for watching the podcast, tuning in, and let me know what you thought of it. If you thought this was a complete waste of time, if you enjoyed it,